And this is using their chip max to remove several pieces off the circuit board that was provided. We're going to start by looking at the chip max itself. On the upper programmer, we can the upper controller will look, and we are currently on pattern 2, which is the higher one. If you need to adjust that, you can go down to pattern 1, which will take you back to the 450 degree soldering and desoldering temperatures. Pattern 2 is a higher temperature, so we're just going to select that one. And we're there. On the lower controller, we want this one to be up to 500. So if you want to lower that back down, you would just hold this until it gets back to the 500 and then lower your temperature to about 300, normally 350 for normal printed circuit boards. But anytime you're dealing with a metal circuit board like this, you're going to need the higher temperatures. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove this large piece. So we're going to grab the appropriate size nozzle that fits over the piece, and we will install that nozzle. You can see on the lower heat, I've installed a nozzle that helps direct the temperature to the board, and we will install that. Let me set the camera over here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take wetting solution and apply wetting solution to the board around the component. It's recommended that you per Motorola that you flood the area around the component with wetting solution. This will just help transfer that heat and make sure that the piece comes off. So now we want to get that up underneath the nozzle, and we will place it appropriately and adjust the height. We want it just a little bit lower. Make sure the vacuum pump is on. Now the first thing I'm going to do is lower the vacuum probe. When I press the foot pedal, you will see that both of these actually go into start and start to heat up. So I'm going to release the foot pedal once and press it again. This will shut off the upper controller. You see that just went to stop, but the lower controller will still heat. So I'm going to let this get up to 500 degrees and let it soak there for a few minutes, and that will just preheat this area on the board where this component is going to be removed. Because it is the metallic circuit board, it does have quite a bit of heat dissipation to it, so that's why we have the increased temperatures. So we still have the component heating. So we still have the component heating. And we'll let this heat for a little while longer. You can see that we're at about 500 degrees on the preheat, which is the lower, and the top is still stopped right now. This is just preheating the area around the board where this component is. Alright, so now I'm going to release the foot pedal one more time and then press it again, and this will actually start the upper controller, and now the upper controller is starting to heat, and you can still see the component on the board. See, we're up to about 390 now, 400. Watch it over here. And on this setting, we're coming up to 550 degrees. And we're watching this component will lift off the board. We're going to try and mark the time that it takes. We just started the second 2-minute portion of this profile. And you can see the solder starting to melt at the edge of that component. And there, the component lifted off. So now I'm going to lift the foot pedal, press it one more time, which will stop the upper controller. And I'll slide the board out from underneath. See if I can actually press the foot pedal to get it to stop here. There we go. Now we're stopped. So now I'm going to set this over, and I'm going to grab a board to set this on real quick. But that lifted that component. I'm going to pause now, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so here's the piece we just removed off the board. You can see the 2 chips below it. Those 2 are easily taken off now using a different size nozzle. I would use this nozzle because it again, if you want to do one at a time, will fit over top and actually just desolder those. And so those 2 can be removed and replaced as necessary. We'll move on for this other component here. Again, pick an appropriate size nozzle that covers the component, and we'll swap out nozzles on the chip max. And first of all, we want to let the board cool a bit because this being a metallic circuit board, it does heat quite easily. So I'm going to pause, and then we'll remove the next piece. Alright, so here we are back with the next piece. You can see I've replaced the nozzle and put the appropriate nozzle on to remove this next piece. I have the vacuum cup locked down onto the piece, and we will heat it and remove it. See, that piece is removed. Lift that off with tweezers. So that piece is now removed. So now I'm going to let the board cool, and then we'll turn it over and remove the other 2 pieces out of the other 2 chips off the back. The 2 small chips. Again, the area was flooded with wetting solution prior to starting, and we've been soaking it, preheating at 500, and now we're coming up to temperature. We're at about 480 and coming up, and we will lift this component off when we get up to temperature. And so now all the components are removed. You can see the back of that chip. And if you look up here on top of the machine, there are all the components that were to be removed off this board. So now the profile will cool down, and in the meantime we will clean up all the landing areas on the board using the pad prep pen, and we'll verify that there's enough solder, and if not, we'll add some more solder, and then we'll get back to restoring all these components back onto their positions. Okay, so I've cleaned all the landings with the prep pad pen and cleaning solution, and verify that there is enough solder on all the different landings to reinstall the components. If not, we would have built solder back up. So now I'm going to take some solder flux and apply flux to the area where we're going to solder the component on. We'll just apply a little flux, and then make sure that the flux is brushed in. Let me move the camera here. Alright, and then we will place the component and get into resoldering. When we heated the boards, or preheated the board, and then started the cycle. So now we're in the up at 550 for the reflow portion, and we will reflow it for about 1 minute and 32 seconds, which is what it took to remove the component from the board, and then that should resolder it back on. And I'll repeat the same with the rest of the components that were done, and at the end we will have a video of the completed board. All right, so here we are installing the last piece. As you can see, we have already installed everything else. We're just going to get this soldered on. Our temperatures are up, and we're doing our soldering here. And as soon as we're done, we'll take this off and we'll clean up all the extra flux, and the board will be ready to reuse. All right, thank you. Okay, so here we are. We have now completed the board. It has cooled off, and I've cleaned it up with the cleaning solution. Got all the extra flux off, and you can see all the components are back on the board. And on this side, same thing. Everything's back on and soldered. Everything's solid. I will send this board back with your machine. When you get it back, these programmers or the controllers will be set for the same temperatures. You'll be in pattern 2. And again, if you need to do something else, all you have to do is go back and select pattern 1, and that will be your lower temperature. And on your lower controller, it will also still be set at 500 degrees when it comes back to you. And hopefully this answers any questions. If you have any other questions about this or need assistance, please give us a call. Thank you.
For more details, visit our website at www.ape.com.